Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. So the big news this week is coming out of ESPN after the news that Qerim is no longer going to be with the network beyond this September, and it seemed to be an abrupt decision. At least that's the way it came off. We even produced a show yesterday where we said that Molly even said on her story when she posted about it on Instagram, she said that she was essentially saying that the story was leaked and it wasn't her intention for the story to come out. Now, here are a few things that I knew were going to happen. I knew obviously people were going to react to it, but I knew the first person that would react to this story, or the person that couldn't wait to get his fingers on it, was Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, I knew, was salivating to talk about it because it's content. Don't get it twisted. The same way y'all be like content creators probably watching this show, the same way you're like, man, the story just came out. It's the same way Stephen A. Smith be feeling the same way too, right? So throughout yesterday, I even saw that he had made some comments about it on First Take. I didn't watch, so I didn't see his comments there. But apparently later on in the day, he did a show about it, which I didn't watch. So this morning, I was going through the internet here, and I came across this article with the headline saying, Stephen A. Smith's bizarre leverage rant raises question after Qerim departure. Let me just read a little bit of it. It says, Qerim's sudden departure from ESPN on Monday night came as a surprise to many. That included Stephen A. Smith, who addressed his longtime co-host departure during Tuesday's episode on SiriusXM. And then he said a few things that I don't want to get into. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's get into what Stephen A. Smith actually said, right? I want you guys to listen to what he said. I want you guys to listen to all of it because a lot of people are like, bro, what's going on with these comments here? Take a listen to what he had to say there.
But in the end, she made her decision, and we have to move on as a show. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it because I appreciate her and what she has meant to me, what she has meant to the show, what she has meant to the network, what she's meant to the business. And I'm going to miss her. It's just that simple. But we all make decisions that we deem to be in our best interest for whatever reason. And that story is for her to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it with you? No. Because again, that's her story to tell. But I do think it's important that I started off the show by just acknowledging my love and appreciation for her and what she's meant to me and what she's meant to the show. Because over the years, over the last decade or so, the things that we've accomplished, she was right there. And we could talk about me being the star of my daily television show. We could talk about the contributors that have been stars as well. We can even talk about me doing this show right now. You know, it's a hell of a lot easier to have a second job when the first job is made so easy because you're working with somebody that makes it easy for you. And that's what she did for me personally. And so because of that, I just wanted to wish her the best, let her know the love is always here from myself, from my personal assistant and my right hand, Sumatra, to my security, Juvie, and my sister Carmen, and so many people that have loved her and loved on her over the years. We've got nothing but love for her. Having said that, I want to move on to a broader subject in regards to this. And this part is not about Molly. This part is about this industry because I know there's a lot of people that look at sports and, you think you can do this every day. News for you. You can't wake up and be Mad Dog Russo. You can't wake up and be Adam Shine. You can't wake up and be Stephen A. It takes work. It's not just about what you know. It's about what you know about your audience and how to deliver a product to an audience that they're receptive to and they want to embrace and they want to magnetize themselves to moving forward. We're looking at an age with podcasting, folks with their own YouTube channel, everybody aspiring to be their own boss and make their own decisions. But in the end, we all have people to answer to. And I know this subject is piggybacking off of what has transpired with Molly's abrupt resignation per se. But it is important to point out that guess what? It doesn't have to be about her. But when you have negotiations and you're talking with people and you're going back and forth and you're hearing things that you may not want to hear or feeling things you may not want to feel, even though you're valued, even though people acknowledge those kind of things, we live in a world where we have to grow up. And again, I'm not talking about Molly here, but I'm watching, and I've been watching over the last several years, people in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people. We don't get to define our own value. We don't get to define our own worth. We don't get to sit there and summarily say, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. And guess what? I don't give a damn what anybody say unless you have the leverage to do it. Because business is all about leverage. And I'm going to take this opportunity talking to this audience, giving you some insight into who I am and how did I think and how I think to make sure you understand where I come from. When you heard me at a time when we were discussing my contract negotiations all over the media and all throughout the sports world, what I talked about was what my worth was based on what the numbers showed. I talked about these are the ratings. This is the revenue. And I talked about, like I wrote in my book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, which was a New York Times bestseller, by the way. I said in the book, I wake up with two things every morning. Two thoughts of mine, prevalent most in my mind. How do I make my bosses more money? How do I get some of it? I'm going to repeat that. How do I get my bosses more money? How do I get some of it? Why do I say that? Because every one of us answer to somebody. For those of you out there with a YouTube channel, guess what? YouTube can flag your stuff and limit what you could disseminate to the masses. Over the airways of SiriusXM Radio, I have a beautiful deal with this company. I am incredibly happy. It doesn't escape me that Scott Greenstein is my boss. I work at ESPN. I'm incredibly happy with how I have been treated. Dave Roberts is my boss. Burt Magnus is my boss. Mike McQuaid is my boss. Jimmy Pitaro is my boss. Bob Iger is my boss. This notion that everybody gets to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, feeling whatever way they want to feel. When you got your hand out for other people's money, it doesn't work that way. And again, I'm not talking about Molly with all of this. Molly's a separate category. But the reason why I piggybacked off the topic of her to get into a more generalized discussion is because I'm seeing people in this business and beyond falling by the wayside and departing from places they don't need to depart from because their excellence at what they do is prevalent and relevant and flagrant. And they should be here. But it can all evaporate in a snap if you lose perspective. And you forget that everybody, and I mean everybody, answers to somebody. There's a beast that has to be fed. And along the way, sometimes it calls for you to make sacrifices you may not otherwise want to make. And what changed my life for the better, that made me a better professional, that made me a better man, was when I woke up and realized my primary objective in the world of business, in the capitalistic society that we live in, is to make somebody money and to be able to get some of it. Because nobody gets to take it all for themselves. Even the bosses have to surrender resources and assets to people that are under them to make sure everything flows efficiently and fluidly. That's the world we're living in. And you know, when you make moves, when I sat up there and I talked about what my worth was, it's because I knew I had leverage. Because I had other opportunities. You don't say stuff like that when you don't.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say there. What are my thoughts about this? I think Stephen A. Smith, first of all, used this situation to once again make it about himself. He then started speaking about people that think it's easy to come into sports media. That you started talking about you have to understand that all of us are beholden to somebody we all have bosses. Even if you have a YouTube channel, you have to answer to YouTube. If you say things that the platform doesn't agree with, or if you break some of their rules, they could stifle your views or limit your reach. He then spoke about the fact that he had bosses. He has bosses at ESPN. Then he went on to talk about the fact that, the goal is every day to make his bosses money. He started listing all of them by name. And then some of us are sitting here saying, okay, so you're meant to be reacting to what happened to Molly, but then you're bringing this up. Why is this on your mind as it pertains to Molly? And he kept on reiterating, this is not about Molly. This is not about Molly. And it's like, it certainly doesn't seem like you're making it about her. It seems like you're trying to get at a larger issue that maybe she was related to, because the way his comments came off, I'm not saying this is what he said, I'm saying this is the way it sounded. It seemed like it had to do with contract negotiations and something about leverage. That's what it seemed to do. Now, I woke up this morning and I saw a report. I forgot what Instagram page sent it to me. Was it Yahoo Sports? I think maybe it might have been Yahoo Sports, where they said Stephen A. Smith is earning right now around $40 million per annum with his ESPN deal, his new Sirius XM radio deal, which I think is worth $36 million. And then with his YouTube revenue and whatever, they said he's making around $40 million per annum. I don't know if that's the number, but it was just bizarre. His comments, they were bizarre, because it's like, are you saying that the network, or rather Molly, received an offer that she didn't like and therefore she turned it down? Is that what you're alluding to? Because you're saying it's not about Molly. Then if it's not about Molly, why are you talking about this particular issue about contracts and what your value is and leverage? You spoke about the fact that you were able to negotiate with ESPN a better deal because you had leverage. Why are you bringing up all of these things as it pertains to Molly? And if it's not about Molly, who are you talking about? What is the genesis? What's anchoring these thoughts that you're giving us? So it was just really, really strange. Just bizarre. And a lot of people out there just like, Stephen A. Smith, what's going on here? Was all of what you just said necessary? Couldn't it have been enough to say thank you for everything that you did and all that what you did say at the beginning of the sound, and then just leave it at that? Why did you now need to go into all? Because all it's going to do is lead people to begin to speculate, well, why did Molly leave? Why did she leave? Was it over contract disputes? What was it for? And then you talking about this, and then you kept on saying it's not about Molly, it's not about Molly. The whole thing just seemed weird. For those of you who have been watching NBA, who've been following the NBA since the early 2000s, you will know that Nike has been really out there trying to promote LeBron. I think even in the year 2008, if I remember right, they were promoting this LeBron versus Kobe Bryant confrontation in the finals. They had the Nike puppets, right, where LeBron was talking to Kobe and all of that. So Nike has always been behind LeBron James. I think they gave him a $60 million or $90 million deal before he got into the NBA. So they've always supported him and to a certain extent protected him. Well, a number of years ago, well over a decade ago, I think this is when LeBron was in Miami or something like that. He was at a basketball shoot around. And while he was there, he was playing against NBA player. I don't know if he's still playing in NBA. I don't think he is. Jordan Crawford, where Jordan Crawford essentially put LeBron James in the rim when he dunked on him. And apparently this highlight was so damaging that Nike themselves opted to confiscate the tapes and basically ensured that no one on the internet would watch it. And I'm assuming it's probably after the 2011 finals, after he fell apart. I don't remember, but I'm thinking that's what it is. And it was one of those things where a lot of us were like, well, whatever happened to the tapes? Well, apparently Jordan Crawford was on a podcast called TFU Podcast, where he was talking about this very thing. Now, I don't know if we can show the footage. We probably can. But I want you guys to take a look and listen to what he had to say about what Nike did when they decided to confiscate these tapes to basically save LeBron's legacy. Take a listen to this here.
No, I got him. But it had just, the camp had just started, and it was like probably the first game into us scrimmaging, so it had happened quick. But it was so much hype around it because it was the high school kids was in there. So when it happened, you can kind of tell it was a big deal, and I think that's what made Nike feel like they had to take the tapes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wait, Nike stole the tapes?
Yeah.
I still had it out?
Are the tapes out there anywhere?
It's a cell phone version that's out on YouTube, but the tapes we actually need to get, talk to Nike and find out because those tapes are somewhere hidden in the back cave somewhere.
That's crazy.
Come on,
we need
Nike.
to get those tapes. It's what? We 15 years later, man. We still don't know where
Back there, they got Sasquatch tapes, alien footage, and the dunk on LeBron right next to that.
Caught him slipping.
So you heard what he had to say. Now, I know a lot of LeBron fans don't know this, especially the younger guys. They don't know this. They get a lot of what they think about LeBron from people like Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, all of these twerking ass websites and all of this stuff. They don't really know the full story. They don't know the backstory. All they know is most of them just know what they saw from 2015, 16, and beyond. They don't know what went down in the early days. If y'all knew, y'all would have a different opinion. If y'all knew. Now, the saddest part about this is the older guys that do know, some of them are not letting y'all know that. They just up there twerking it up for y'all on a daily basis. Why? Because they're trying to get in your pockets. They trying to get in your pocket, so they up there parroting and promoting this nonsense because they know it's what gets them paid. It's going to get them paid. They're trying to ingratiate themselves with the younger fan base because they want to grow with y'all. And then if that means they have to lie to y'all and distort history and reality to do so, so be it. But those of us who are old enough who remember all of this, we know. And I think this happened after I think it was after the finals. I think so. I don't remember when exactly. It definitely wasn't during his second stint in Cleveland. I think it was during his Miami days. I think so. I don't think people realize how bad it was then. People like to try to make that Miami y'all don't realize how much of a debacle that Miami saga was. When they first formed that team, you had a guy that had just led the league in scoring in Dwayne Wade the year before LeBron joined, although his team was ass the year before. He had led the league in scoring. You had a 20-10 guy who was leading his team to the playoffs every year, it seemed like, in Chris Bosh. And then you had a young phenom in LeBron James come together to form this super team. And they were meant to go on to win 55,000 championships, right? And in the first year of these guys getting together, they absolutely collapsed in the NBA Finals. And LeBron cost D Wade a title. He cost him a championship. Most of y'all don't even know that D Wade led that team in scoring all throughout the playoffs. Some of y'all don't even know that. And in the aftermath of those finals, it was the lowest moment in LeBron's career because he had just done the decision, which was a disaster, like a debacle. Then he had what occurred in the finals, and then he was walking around with the shirt, check my stat. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And then they bounced back. I think they won against OKC. Then they beat the Spurs with that crazy three-point clutch shot that Ray Allen hit, I think, to force it to Game 7, if my memory serves me right. And then they came back the next year because the Spurs wanted revenge, and the Spurs felt like they should have beat the Heat. They came back the next year, I'm talking about the Spurs, and beat them by the widest margin in the history of basketball. There hasn't been a worse beatdown than what LeBron and the Heat suffered in the finals ever. No team has lost by that record of them. It was a total disaster. So those 4 years in Miami weren't all cakes and pies, baby. And I think this clip, if my memory serves me right, I think this occurred then or it could have been in his early days in Cleveland. I don't remember when. But I remember this story. And I remember because back then social media wasn't really a thing. It was very, very hard to find these tapes. You even hear him there, Jordan Crawford talking about, to this day, I don't even know where all the full footage is. But then again, we can believe what we heard from him. Why? Because we just did a show not too long ago watching son get stripped by a freaking college kid in China, wherever it was, a 13, 15-year-old, whatever the hell it was, and get dunked on. We saw him building the Great Wall of China out there in China the other day when he was throwing up all those bricks. So this is not outside the realm of possibilities. But I know some of y'all don't know this. Some of y'all see, what's happened is Kobe's ass is in the public. Everybody done seen his ass. Everybody done seen Michael Jordan's ass and all of his stories and all of this and the scandals and all of. We ain't seen LeBron yet. We done seen everybody else. And people have formed their opinions about all these people. We ain't seen his stories yet. Welcome to reality. There's a lot more to the story.